But what about Hitler? Are you saying we should have just done nothing and let Hitler take over the world? What is the assumption here? The assumption is there's only two choices. Violence means you do something. Nonviolence means you do nothing. But that's a false assumption. Remember, we have been saying that the way of peace is actually to get involved and do what you can in a way that is willing to die for a cause, just not willing to kill for a cause. Say, well, that's all well and good, but what if Hitler had taken over the world? If enough people followed this way, there would have been no army to fight Hitler. He might have taken over the world. We can respond to this in two ways. Number one, and this is hard to hear, but I think according to the teaching of Jesus, it is most faithful to the New Testament teaching. If you can teach me something else differently according to Scripture, I'm willing to listen. But according to Scripture, regardless of who was in power at any one time, Jesus has enough faith and calls us to have enough faith to know that God's will can be done. So whether it is the Romans who are in charge of Israel, or it is Hitler who aggressed and won World War II, we would say there is room for God's will to grow and to push back. It doesn't mean we validate Hitler. It doesn't mean we validate Rome. But you know, if Hitler took over the world, if he had won World War II, and now we were beholden to him, and he was now taxing us, and he was forcing us, and he was imprisoning us, do you know what that situation would be like? Well, it would be a lot like first century Israel, where Rome had invaded. They were no lover of Jews. They were no lover of anybody who wasn't Roman. And they would mass crucify, mass execute, and say, we are in charge, no ifs, ands, or buts. And it is within that context that Jesus says, you know what I want you to do? I want you to love your enemy. This was not hypothetical. It is as though Germany had won World War II, and someone is saying, will someone fight back the oppressor? And Jesus says, I am going to teach you a better way. We are going to teach the Nazis, the Germans, how to see us as human beings, and it may take time and many may die in the process, but it is the way to fight for the kingdom of the heart. But you know what? The Hitler question is a lot easier than that. It's a lot easier to answer. If Christians were pacifists, if all Christians were following the teaching of Jesus, truth is, Hitler would have had no army. When people ask this question, they ask it hypothetically as though only the Allies heard of Jesus. But you see, there was no nation on the planet who was more steeped in Christian tradition than Germany. The Anabaptists started in Germany. You have Hitler, you have Hitler. Yes, you have Hitler. You have Luther. You have Zwingli, you have the Protestant Reformation. No country on the planet. Do you know Hitler's army was populated with church-attending, Bible-believing, God-praying, Jesus-loving soldiers who believed in just war theory? Hitler may have been a pagan himself, but his army was made up of either Catholics or Lutherans primarily. If Christians follow the way of Jesus, Hitler wouldn't have gotten off the ground.